Hi, my name is Charles Vance. I'm along with Chief Strategist Terry Sacka. Today we're going to be talking about financial preservation and global economics. Your life could be changed by watching the wealth transfer. I hope you'll stay around. Terry, good to see you today.
Charles, all right. How are you?
I'm in great shape. You?
I'm excellent. Thank you very much. I'm enjoying seems like the fruits of good family fun and food. We were joking about that. Charles going, you're going to have to get some alterations.
They have a new executive section in the suit stores now. They're 3 inches bigger in the waist.
Boy, I tell you, man, it's time
for some people.
No, but it's just time to stop it.
I had a friend one time told me, he said, people who say that money can't make you happy they've never had any. Because money, Solomon said, that money answers all things. Now, we know that it doesn't answer spiritual things, but in the natural, we need money to make our lives work. It's a medium of exchange that we have, and we started talking yesterday on the program about inflation. And really, a lot of folks don't really even know what inflation is. And I think if we could just back up just a second and let people know what inflation is.
Yes, we are in the inflation series. And if you didn't catch the last program, you can go to the archive page of the Wealth Transfer on Cornerstone Asset Metals website. And you can watch that program on demand and kind of get caught up, because we gave a foundation of inflation. Inflation mainly means when there's too much currency chasing too few goods, because companies have been holding back producing things, inventories are kept low, all this money printing comes in, all this currency is available, and then all of a sudden there's not as much. People are in a bidding war in a sense, and it causes prices to rise. It was always designed to be incremental, but what we're finding over time is they say the reason inflation is good is you're supposed to make more money. But we all know that we used to have a one-person family income earner. Now we have to have two. That, you used to be able to put yourself through college and have a car. Now you can't even barely do that at all. You need loans that strap you for 20 years. So it really isn't true that our incomes keep pace. But what is true is inflation erodes the ability of your hard-earned wealth, which I say hard-earned wealth, hard tangible wealth, to have a standard of living, inheritance for your children and your children's children. In the old days, we didn't have Social Security. In old Europe, they didn't have Social Security and such. They passed down their assets to their family, passed down their land, their diamonds, their gold, their silver.
You know, the Bible says that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. So
exactly.
That's really what we're supposed to do. Right. We're supposed to gather up enough wealth that our grandchildren gets a cut out of it.
That's right.
And that's biblical.
And that's biblical.
And the only way that we're going to do that is to realize that we need to be investing in tangible assets rather than things that are called fiat, which you defined this yesterday. It's what our currency is. It's fake.
It's fake.
It's simply an IOU from someone that doesn't have the ability to pay you.
And here's the problem. Our retirement accounts are in this. Our 401ks are in this. The stock market's in this. We store it in the bank. We are in fiat, fake world, and it doesn't do us any good, because over periods of time, fiat currency is designed to go down in value, not up, and that's the trick of inflation. For those that have hard tangible assets, of course, they've seen another story, because we left off last week when we were doing it, we were talking about the components of inflation. We showed you the credit and the market system to our actual income, and our income isn't even remotely keeping pace with our credit and money printing. Then we showed you the dynamic of crude oil, because energy is a driver of economic prowess, and we showed you a little bit of twist that kind of ties into our petrodollar series of what's going on with oil prices and what America produces oil. So be cautious that that's not a strategy that is short-lived, and we're going to see something come from that.
Real quick, I think we should probably tell folks that might not know, maybe some new viewers, or maybe it didn't connect with folks when we were talking about the petrodollar, but the petrodollar was what? Tell us again.
The petrodollar basically was an arrangement that we had in the 70s with Saudi Arabia, who ran the oil cartel, OPEC. We said, we'll protect you militarily if you force every nation to buy crude oil in a dollar bill. Well, this gave demand for the dollar bill. This also gave us security and nation security that, well, the dollar is going to be the only reserve currency, and everybody needs oil, so then therefore everyone needs a dollar. So now every country in the world had to store dollar bills in their bank to pay for energy. Well, we contend that what's coming soon is that petrodollar arrangement is going to end. This oil dynamic we showed last week is a little twist in inflation because energy is inflation to all of our goods, services, trucking, training, boating, and so forth. Remember, we used to pay $30 a barrel for oil, and now we were paying upwards of $110, and now it's somewhere near $75, $80, and it's just crushing countries that are not going to be happy about it.
But now
petrodollar.
We're producing a lot of oil here in the States.
We're producing the oil, but it's not going to help the petrodollar.
Exactly.
Matter of fact,
that's what I was wanting to get
yeah,
at.
I think it's going to go the
that.
opposite side.
Well,
I think if we have oil prices too low, it's going to make the petronations so furious that alone could exacerbate the BRIC nations.
They're going to have such an excess of currency that they're not going to know what to do with, and it's going to be in the system, and instead of moving, it's going to just be hanging around. It's going to deflate the dollar and inflate everything else that you purchase with a dollar.
Yep, it's going to cause a problem. And so we had that little dynamic going on, and then the third component we showed, which was the hard tangible asset side of this, which is, of course, silver. A lot of times, people are saying obviously the price of silver is lower, but when we showed the Shanghai cooperation, which is we tied in with the petrodollar deal, which is so important to understand, it's the BRIC nations coming together, and the silver is the form of money and hard asset in the world. Americans, for whatever reason, don't seem to catch on to that, and I understand why. We're not educating them properly to that. That's why we're here. But silver is real money. And that chart we showed you last week showing the dramatic depletion of the Shanghai Exchange storage facility. Mind you, the COMEX in America is the same way. We're in trouble. Physical silver is not as available as people think.
No.
And that's why it's a good asset to be in your retirement account.
Why is it depleting?
They're taking it as a hedge against these currencies they know are going to collapse. They're holding it in exchange for paper currency. They would rather have 100,000 of this versus 100,000 of these.
Well, certainly, yeah.
There's a reset. The chatter is a reset is coming in global economics. A major reset. What we saw in 2008 is nothing compared to what's coming. And if the petrol goes down or this perfect storm plays out, you're going to see not only inflation, because they're going to have to print trillions more to keep us going, trillions are going to come home from overseas, and there's your equation, too much currency chasing too few goods, prices are going to skyrocket, and of course there goes your retirement, your 401k IRA, that's stored in the currency or derivatives of stock market, bond market.
Now, a reset, when you say a reset, explain to us what you're talking about.
I believe that whatever's coming is going to be so catastrophic beyond 2008 that it's going to force currencies to go through a reset of value. They're going to recalculate their worth.
Like value relative to tangible goods.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's
so it's
where
going to take more
there's
currency to purchase the same goods.
I won't be surprised to see silver $100 an ounce. See gold, and it's not that they go up, remember, these are going to go down. And relative to, when you start to see what we're going to show you on our debt, who owns our debt, how much we're printing, and the impact to that in the future, you know we're in trouble and we can't pay it back.
You know, people generally sit by and say, well, this has been going on for years, and certainly,
I agree, that's
certainly
true.
Nothing's going to happen that's going to cause a major problem for us. But most people don't know that that the Federal Reserve Bank is the fourth national bank that has been in existence in the United States. The other three have totally collapsed.
Correct.
And the reason for the collapse is because they did what the Federal Reserve Bank is doing right now.
Yes.
Now, I'm not suggesting they're going to collapse. Maybe people are smarter now maybe these cartels, these banking cartels, are smarter and smart enough to somehow wiggle this stuff around. I don't know, but I know it keeps inflating the prices of things.
Yes.
And if it does follow history, at some point, this is going to go so far down in value that it's going to have to start all over again. And that's what they've done with these banks. These
and I believe a reckoning is coming right now. I believe we're at this time where 2008 was the beginning, but I believe what is getting ready to come and soon. And mind you, I'm more coming from the whole Shemitah, blood moon of Sukkot next September more than anything. I'm waiting for that to play out before anything, right? But you know, there's something reckoning in the system, and this reset is going to cause currencies to devalue. There's going to be a mess in markets collapsing, big trouble. All we're saying is you better be prepared, be diversified. Don't think things are status quo, back to normal, everything's okay. It's far from okay. Europe and Japan are in negative interest rates, mind you. Just keep that in mind. So
what's that mean?
It means basically they're charging you to store money in the bank.
What a deal.
Well, but you know what I mean? Because they want you to spend your money.
Wow.
You see?
So
they need that currency to
keep your money and
circulate.
keep it moving.
They need it moving. They need to keep inflation moving or we're in trouble. So for those that have IRAs, 401ks to protect currency in the bank, you need to be diversified away from all that currency. Have some hard, tangible assets because over time, this will continue to go up in value as these currency notes go down. The data in here will show you about the dollar. It'll show you economic standards globally and how simply and easy it is you can roll over your current IRA to a precious metal physical IRA for real tangible wealth, long-term storage. Just register on the website, give us a call, and we'll guide you through that process.
What is going on next? Where are we going next with inflation? Because I see you've got a bunch of charts over here.
Yeah, because here's the issue here, why we're near an end of a cycle. Back in the day, World War II, remember the World War II bonds we had? You know, buy American bonds, and Americans and retirement people would put their money into U.S. bonds. We controlled
them
war bonds. We were in control of our nation. We were still financially viable. Matter of fact, we were the world's largest creditor nation. We gave people money. We were just explosively wealthy at that time frame, even though we just came out of war. We were really, we were in charge. Well, today, go to image number 4 because this is why inflation is going to be creeping quickly. Image 4 is going to show you that now 67% of the federal debt is held by the public. But if you notice, the blue is the federal portion of it. The orange is the foreign portion of it. 67% of all of our debt is owned by foreign nations and the Federal Reserve Bank. That's a problem. Now skip over to image number 5 and you'll see how quickly that's escalated. Foreign-owned U.S. government debt since 9/11, right there. On the left is 9/11 time, 2001, and on the right, look at the explosive foreign-owned U.S. government debt purchased. Now, here's the scary part. The government debt now tops $6 trillion since 2001. I hate to tell you where it is today. Won't even go there. We'll leave that for a later time. You can take that off. That image shows you how explosive our debt has become since 9/11. And we, or the Federal Reserve, has been buying that debt. So basically, they're buying it with nothing. They don't own anything to buy it with. Technically, they're supposed to be gold, but I think if you knew the gold lease swapping scenarios that are going on out there, you might be surprised how little gold we actually have.
That's really been, the gold standard has been gone for a long time, though.
Yes, it has.
And there's, for the Federal Reserve Bank, the main Federal Reserve Bank, there's not even a fractional banking rule for them anymore. They don't have to have anything in reserve to back up the currency that they print.
They can't even be audited. So I know certain congressmen were trying to get it audited, and they wouldn't allow it.
Well, I don't know what there is to audit.
Well, how much gold we really have. Because gold was supposed to be a certain ratio because at least it was an asset.
But they did away with that.
Well, the standard, but the world still wants to know you're worth something.
But my point is the Federal Reserve Bank has done away with a fractional standard, or the government has taken the rules away for them.
Yes, they
That
have.
They don't have to have anything in reserve now.
No, they don't have to have it in reserve, but they still, this is why you know how true it is. It's not part of the standard, but yet every central bank in the world owns a chunk of gold. Why? Because at the end of the day, gold is the only real money, and they know it.
Gold and silver. They're the
gold and
wealthy
silver,
people.
yes.
They're the wealthy people. They know that.
They
That's why
know
they
that.
hold that.
They know.
But they're not holding anything. My point again is, there used to be laws when the Federal Reserve came into place, what, 1933?
1913 for the Federal Reserve.
1913 for the Federal Reserve Bank, when it started. They had to have a specific percentage of gold.
It was
or
1-to-1 back
silver.
then.
And then real quickly it began to change. It became 1-to-2.
Yep, fractional,
Yeah, and then it became fractional, and it went nuts nearly for the next several years. And then we've come off of it completely. I discovered a few years ago that there is no bank, national bank in the world that has a fractional standard now that they have to keep a reserve. And it's simply, I'm sure, because of the World Bank and the IMF that's pretty much controlling all of that.
But what they're doing now is they're
as a
just
whole.
printing this
They're
into
just
Bolivia.
printing it.
And that doesn't, it's not going to fly. There is a reckoning coming, and 2008 was a hiccup. Wait until you see the bigger picture. Because look who owns our debt right now. Let's look at this image number 6 here. This is actually who owns it. This is building up to something and why inflation is going to be hitting you. If you notice who owns it, mainland China is the largest holder of our debt. And wait till you see that number changing. Next is Japan. If you only would know, Japan literally is our puppet, I would say, financially. You know, we bombed them in World War II, and they basically have committed to owning everything. They are in negative interest rates. Their economy has been struggling for probably 15 years, and they're negative interest rates right now, trying to kick it up again. They're printing trillions of dollars, but the yen is part of the handful of currencies the dollar gets its value from, the euro and the yen. So the Japan owns most of our debt, but when we go down, our dollar goes down, Japan's going with it.
Why does that have a significance? Why does it hold a significance to us that
Because
somebody else owns our debt?
Because they now have control or manipulation or threats, or basically, if they chose to, they could really harm us. Not that Japan would, mind you, but China is the issue. I'm talking about the BRIC nations, as we showed in the petrodollar series, the BRIC nations are vying to take down the dollar. De-dollarization, it's called. It's happening right now. And the problem is, if that petrodollar goes down, inflation is going to kick up way more than you see right now, and these people hold the cards. You remember, we used to hold our debt. Now they control our debt, and we have lost our destiny.
Is this, in a sense, everyone that's had a mortgage probably knows this. If you've had a mortgage very long, if you signed papers when you bought your home, you gave them the right, generally, to sell your mortgage to someone else.
Right.
So we own several pieces of property, my wife and I, and it's not unusual for a year to go by. It is unusual for a year to go by that someone doesn't buy the mortgage of a piece of our property.
Yes.
So they are controlling the debt. We owe them.
And this is
now.
going
So
on
that's
right
what's
now.
happening here.
Yes, and when Japan's in negative interest rates, and you see all these countries own our debt, not we the people, we're not in control anymore. At any given time, if we step out of line politically, they have the ability to yank the carpet.
So they can call in the debt.
No, they just dump
call
it.
in the loan.
They dump it. They sell it. Call
Sell
in the
it
loan.
to somebody else.
You dump it in the market. And I'm telling you right now, they're dumping it secretly. And that's a whole different conversation. But let's go over here to image number 7. And just kind of read this for a moment and catch this. But what will happen if the average real interest rate ends up being just 4% in this country annually? And we pay it off like a 30-year mortgage. Think about that for a minute. Go over to 8. We will spend an astonishing $34 trillion to simply repay what we owe right now.
Now, you're talking about the national debt.
Yep, you can take that off.
What's that, about 18 trillion right now?
18 trillion is our debt that these countries own a big chunk of. The Federal Reserve owns a big chunk of. And that's why when they say interest rates are going to rise, I'm here to tell you it can't. If we just raise interest rates to 4%, it will cost the United States taxpayers $34 trillion just to pay it off in 30 years, mind you. Now, here's the question.
Well, that's not, first of all, that's not possible.
That's not only not possible,
I mean,
how can we do it when we're in deficits?
If you can't pay the 18 trillion back, why could you pay the 34 trillion
And
back?
we have 60 trillion in baby boomer obligations in Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. It's unsustainable is the point. Something is going to happen, and our retirement accounts, our IRAs, our 401ks in the body of Christ is in jeopardy. Your currency you're holding isn't real money in the sense of real definition of money. Go to the Webster's Dictionary of the 1800s. It'll give you the truest definition of money that the Constitution was written off of. So for those that have those assets, I highly suggest get educated. It's the best investment you can make. Give us a call. Register on this website. It's loaded with data. We'll send out this package to you that has the demise and statistics of the dollar, what's challenging it, global economics and data that'll help you make decisions to be diversified, and how simply and easy it is to roll over to a precious metals IRA so you can store it in more of a hard, tangible asset. And the reason we talk about the IRAs and 401ks so much, most Americans have been geared to have them. And so they store almost all of their hard-earned wealth in these retirement vehicles. So if you're going to store them there, you better be cautious on storing it all in currency, stock markets, bond markets, because for the long term, with what's getting ready to face this nation, you could be jeopardizing all the money you've been saving, currency you've been saving these years for retirement. And your standard of living and your inheritance to your children is what's at stake. So be diversified. So now remember, 34 trillion now is the interest.
To that, there's got to be an alternative to it, doesn't it?
To what?
To the $34 trillion. I mean, the paying
No,
back the
see,
debt.
no. Not only that, not only is there not an alternative, we are continuing to print 500, 600 billion more. We're in deficit. So we need to borrow or print more money every single year just to break even, let alone pay back our debt. We have way too many obligations out there. We can't continue this way. Now, granted, we'll make some money in oil and the shale boom and some other things that they're doing. Fine. Maybe they raise taxes more. Fine. But we keep spending more. So the equation is lopsided. This reckoning is coming because remember, 34 trillion is just the interest. That's why you know interest rates are not going higher than 4%. So that's encouraging on one aspect. Now, go to image number 9. This is very important here. This was written from the New York Post. The U.S. dollar is getting perilously close to losing its status as the reserve world's currency. Should it cross the line, 2008 financial crisis could look like a summer storm. Now take that off for just a moment, and I want you to really think about this. 2008 was just the beginning. And when they wrote that and they said, should it cross the line, I'm contending that line is going to get crossed, but here's the scary part. Not crossed in one place. A perfect storm is brewing. Trillions upon trillions of debt obligation, interest payment obligation, trillions in national debt. And yet our income does not keep pace to it, to the GDP, as you saw in the original image. This is the key. The petrodollar is the key. If we lose reserve status, we lose the petrodollar, we start a rift between the East and the West. Oh yeah, we already did. Do you see where I'm going? It is right there. The BRIC nations are on our back like you can't even imagine. And this is near that line being crossed. That's why so much of what we see on TV isn't true. They don't want you to know the truth for nothing. They want you to spend your currency because we're in a deflation that is incredibly scary. Because the New York Post had it right. When that petrodollar ends or the dollar reserve status ends, The currency that is overseas will start flooding back to the United States. If it's not managed correctly, which I don't have faith they can manage anything correctly, they can't even keep, diseases from coming into this country that shouldn't be coming in. So, I'm not having confidence in that. We, the people, have to look out for ourselves. We don't rely on an entity to take care of us. But when that happens, not only does inflation come, but maybe hyperinflation. I almost believe, and I know this is a big debate in the economic circle, I think we're getting all of it. I think deflation is coming, then inflation, then hyperinflation. I think it's going to be so confusing, your head's going to spin. You better be protected in a diversified asset, because how can you manage your way through this?
I got to jump in.
Sure.
We're not trying to scare people.
No, just prepare them.
People to prepare.
The body of Christ should be prepared, because we need to keep our assets straight.
I've sat and talked with people until I felt like I was blue in the face, the old folks say, and about this type of thing. And they say, well, what am I supposed to do about it? That's the question that people ask. The average guy that's working, that maybe doesn't have a retirement account, but he's just working every day. He said, what do I do about all of this?
I'd buy 1 ounce at a time.
Just do something to get hold of something tangible.
Tangible, and just be prepared. Just don't get blindsided. Don't go extend credit. Don't use credit cards heavily. Be cautious, because in near future, when these events play through, they're going to happen. It's just inevitably when. And there's a whole dynamic in the Middle East. There's so many things going on we can't even get into and touch on, because it is that real. So let's wrap up with number 10 here. This is by Ray Dalio, and Bridgewater Associates said this. It is inevitable that the dollar's role as the world's currency will diminish from the dominant world currency to one of a few. It's already happened. It will fade probably fairly quickly. That's on the verge of happening. So the United States, which accounts for almost 2/3 of the reserves, will probably go down to 50% of the world's reserves. Ladies and gentlemen, it's already happening. You can take that off. Just know that when this takes place and all that currency starts coming home, the inflation is going to be ferocious on your retirement, your standard of living. Get educated. Register on the website. Give us a call. For those with IRAs and 401ks, roll them over into a hard, tangible asset. This package we send out is loaded with data that'll help you understand that and how easy and simply it is to do that. Next week, we'll continue this on inflation. And if you haven't asked Jesus Christ into your heart, ask him. The truth will set you free. God bless you.
You can watch these programs on demand at cornerstoneassetmetals.com. Just simply pull them up by the date that they originally aired on the Thursday evening programs. Tell somebody about the broadcast. We're going to be back next week, same place, same time. We hope to see you right here for the Wealth Transfer.